2 years ago, I traveled to London to compete at my first Pokémon World Championships. A trip that was very special to me, as not only was it my first time even attending a World Championships, it was my first time traveling internationally. However, it wouldn't take very long for this experience to be surpassed, as the following year, I would yet again qualify to compete at Worlds, now taking place in Yokohama, Japan. If I looked at these trips as if they were films, then this couldn't have been a more perfect sequel. I would be traveling for more days, with more people, visiting twice as many major cities, as Yokohama is just south of Tokyo. The stakes were higher, as I had higher expectations for myself for the tournament, for the trip as a whole, as traveling to Japan had been a lifelong dream of mine. There was just so much going on that made this so much more special. And not a day goes by where I don't wish to return to Japan. Even with everything that ended up going wrong, at least 10 out of those 12 days were some of the greatest days of my life. At this point, it was going to be nearly impossible for a future Worlds trip to top this one, but I did maintain some excitement when it would be announced that the subsequent World Championships would be held in Honolulu. Many years ago, I was set to go visit with my sister, but she got sick the night before we were going to fly out, so the trip got cancelled. I wanted to make up for that at some point, and it seemed this would be my chance. Flash forward another year, and indeed, I was yet again bound for the Pokémon World Championships. But if I'm keeping this whole movie analogy going, the scriptwriters knew last year's entry couldn't be topped. So, to keep things fresh, instead of going bigger, they instead changed some other things. For this next go-around, as I headed to Honolulu for my third World Championships, let's just say certain circumstances surrounding the trip ended up being just a bit different. Our trip to Hawaii, would properly begin with the most obvious thing you can think of when you hear vacation in Hawaii. Is it going to the beach? Yeah, it's going to the beach. And you couldn't have asked for a more perfect day to be out here. In fact, just getting to rest here for an hour or two, enjoying this beautiful weather, was more than enough for me. I didn't really care to go swimming today, so I didn't mind staying back and keeping a watch on all of our stuff. Not like I would be alone, cause I'd be accompanied by one of our returning characters from last time. Just two Texas boys chilling on the Hawaiian beach, 2 feet apart. Nothing crazy here.
What's this?
I almost
my vlogging camera.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
We can our hotel has GoPros we can rent out.
James Beck had one at UIC too. I think it's the same one.
Yeah, it's like specifically for.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yo, what's up? How are we doing?
That's getting cut out.
Okay.
If you hadn't noticed by now just how much smoother the footage has been compared to my last vlog, well, that's because I realized lugging around my Canon M50 again wasn't going to be viable, so I instead brought with me a newly acquired DJI Pocket 2. Comboing this with a cheap backpack strap, I had a nearly perfect hands-free vlogging setup. Not to make this sound like a sponsored ad read, but this little thing's built-in gimbal made it so even an awful blogger like myself could easily shoot some buttery smooth footage. For once, I won't have to compromise on one of these vlogs because I failed to shoot much video, thanks to me recording so much this time around. Which is ironic I say that now, because of what would happen soon after we all left the beach and had lunch. Our group would split up, with 3 of us heading back to the hotel room. And it was on this walk back that simultaneously one of the funniest and saddest moments of the trip happened. The day before, one of my favorite YouTubers, Jenny Nicholson, had tweeted out teasing she would be at Worlds. I thought, wow, wouldn't it be neat if I just happened to be vlogging while I walk by here, quickly say, oh hey, nice to meet you, I love your videos. You know, that would have made for a cool moment for the vlog. So on the way back from the Hilton Village Resort, I took my phone out for directions because we hadn't quite memorized the route back. But me wanting to take this opportunity to vlog some more, I asked my friends if one of them could instead have the directions so I could pull out my camera. And right as I'm saying that, we get to this crosswalk where I see someone walking by with a comically large Metapod plush. Oh fuck, that's Jenny. I kinda go into panic mode, trying to calmly go up to her with what I had in mind. It went well, it was cool. I got one of these bracelets she was giving out. I'm glad that little moment happened. But man, I was this close for that to make it in here.
Does it record audio?
Yeah. That's a really good mic too.
So I mean, I can make it like really hard
What?
by like saying obscene things.
Yeah, you can say I've seen things and it'll catch it.
No, I'm saying like it'll make it really hard in editing.
Nah.
Okay.
I can work around it.
While that didn't quite go according to plan, the next thing very much did, because I had the brilliant idea to accompany Alex today for his Pokémon Center reservation. For whatever reason, competitors were not getting a guaranteed one-time entry this time around, so I knew I was going to be more limited with how many times I would be able to go in. With the 2 entries I had available to me, as I had my own reservation the following day, I knew today I could focus on the shopping, but tomorrow almost exclusively for shooting footage. I teased this in the Tokyo vlog, but I already had in mind on putting together a cool montage for the Pokémon Center portion of this video, and I knew I had to get lots of footage for that. Now, before I show that off, I do have to maintain tradition and shit talk the Pokémon Center a bit. So a couple things. Like I just said, why get rid of the guaranteed competitor entry? That was one of the best changes last year. If there's anybody coming to Worlds that deserves to get in, it's all the competitors who worked hard to be here. Not these influencers. Pikachu over here decides to invite. Yes, that includes even the ones I like. Just gotta keep it fair here. Next, this definitely had the worst waiting area to get into the center. You had to go through this hot parking lot, which is not very fun to be in, especially if you end up bunched up with all these people. Alex and I got pretty lucky on our first visit, where we blasted through here, but on the second visit, we were stuck for a good 20 plus minutes. Honestly, I would say this problem is more in part due to the design of the convention center. A lot of it is open air, and there wasn't really a way to have the line go through an air-conditioned area, unlike the previous 2 years. Though you could argue it does fall on TPCI to scout out a convention center with a proper design to accommodate the store and the long lines it will have. I should probably also bring up what I think was the biggest controversy from this year, which was regarding scalpers immediately setting up shop outside the center. Like, yeah, that sucks, fuck those people. I think they should really just set up more strict limits on the amount of product you can buy. Compared to last year, they did indeed have some extra limits, like with the exclusive plushies. Maybe do the same for everything else. Like, come on, you're gonna sell a ton of stuff either way. Also, I gotta say, some of these products, not the greatest quality control there. Apparently, the exclusive ukulele they were selling here also had crap quality, but I couldn't find anything to back up these claims. They were given to me by an anonymous source, so it's not me saying this. If this is false, don't blame me for spreading misinformation, blame my source. Okay, I think that's everything negative I had to say for this portion. So let me now immediately discredit all my complaints by showing you this montage of how actually cool it was shopping here.
Big bass, that's where the heart is. Wake me up, I'm in it, yes. And I can't get enough of your love. Don't wanna stop this feeling for the first time. Deep breathing, I haven't closed my eyes in days. party. I might just get what I wanted. The sound, the vibe. I feel so alive. I feel so alive. I feel so alive. Trust me, we're just getting started. Big bass, that's where the heart is. I feel so alive. I feel so alive. Trust me, we're just getting started. Big bass, that's where the heart is. Wake me up. I'm in it. Yes. And I can't get enough of your
Today was the first of the 2 hikes I'd go on this trip. I for sure wanted to get out of the city at some point to go appreciate Hawaii's natural landscapes, so I happily ditched all my friends who went snorkeling with some turtles to instead head over to Manoa Falls. Besides Diamond Head, which I didn't care about, this was the most accessible out of all the hikes to do, so it felt silly if I didn't go and experience it for myself. And researching, this was being described as an easy beginner hike, which I somewhat agree with, but like, if you're as clumsy as I am, you have to really watch out here to not accidentally slip or twist an ankle. I did not trust myself to not take a bad step, so ironically, most of my hike was me not appreciating the gorgeous nature around me, but instead me staring down at the terrain. And yeah, the waterfall at the end here isn't very impressive, not even during peak season, but I didn't care about that. I wanted to touch grass, get a nice little workout, and I got exactly that. If you're staying in Waikiki, which is the touristy area of Honolulu, coming here is pretty easy. It was a relatively short bus ride that I think was only $6 for the round trip. If you can double dip by visiting the nearby botanical garden as well, that's a great half-day excursion right there.
Bro, where does this go? Holy shit. I'm curious where this goes. Because I got time. It's 12. I got a bit of time. It's about to be 12. Like, how do I even cross this? Oh my goodness. I'm just gonna have to accept them step on mud. Whew. I got like an hour and 20 minutes. I think I'd rather just go down.
If the regular trail is too easy for you, there's also a secondary trail that starts right near the top by the falls. I had some time to kill before my Pokémon Center reservation, so I got to see some of it, but quickly gave up when I realized it just kept going, and I didn't have nearly as much time as I initially thought. Also, it was muddy as hell. This entire hike, in fact, so I was pretty glad I had packed an extra pair of shoes specifically for today. Can't really say much more about it since I didn't get to see where it finishes, but now you know if you ever come here. Our first 3 days in Honolulu had flown by, with the World Championships now officially underway. But just like last time, before I get into the meat and potatoes, that was my experience at Worlds, I do want to take a few minutes talking about my season leading up to this very moment. I said in my last blog how going into last year's Worlds, I initially wanted to take an off season, not trying to compete seriously to chase an invite. A plan which very quickly changed as I would immediately cut the first regional of the year. I was once again feeling the same way, except I actually stuck to that plan, at least for a much longer period of time. Between both of these World Championships, I only went to 3 major tournaments, and even had a 3-month break completely away from Pokemon. No locals, not even a game of Ranbats to kill time. For most of the year, Pokemon just wasn't a priority of mine. Now, I do have a ton to say about all 3 of these tournaments, but I will keep it to a minimum for the sake of time. I especially have a lot to say about that second tournament, that being Orlando Regionals, as it would technically be my best performance of the season, even if I consider the final result a massive disappointment. A tournament I have so much to say about. In fact, I briefly considered doing a full video about it, but I've since abandoned that idea. Instead, I want to flash forward a few weeks after that to early May, just a month before New Orleans Internationals, the final tournament of the season before Worlds. I had just hit what I think was like 203 points out of the 500 needed to qualify this season. I was still very much disinterested in competing at Worlds. I was content with me most likely going just as a spectator to still hang out with friends. But that's when I realized something. Wait a second. With the amount of locals I have left here in Texas, and with how many points Internet gives, even for a mediocre performance, there's a very real chance I can still earn my invite. Pretty much on a flip of a dime, I was now dead set on earning what would be my 3rd Worlds invite. I would spend May driving all across Texas, winning almost all of the remaining locals, catapulting my point count from just a little over 200 to 428. I now just needed 72 points from Internets, which I knew I could very easily get. I had been practicing with the same team for a month straight. I wanted to once again debut the tournament like last year. I had even accumulated so many points in such a short period of time that with a solid enough Internet performance, I would be able to earn a travel stipend for next season. And even if I didn't debut, just being able to get my invite in this sudden last-minute fashion would have been more than enough for me. I felt extremely motivated for this tournament. Too bad that all that last-minute effort was for nothing, as day 1 of Internets this year was the unluckiest tournament of my entire life. Like I said in my previous Worlds report, I acknowledge luck is a part of the game, but I can also say that sometimes the game really does just say, fuck you. No matter how much I felt I was undeserving of me missing out on these final points, it didn't change the fact that, for the first time, I would indeed be experiencing Worlds as a spectator. I originally expected for this to be the case, and goddammit, I guess the universe made sure to keep it that way. But even if that was my original intention, that didn't prevent me from experiencing a spectrum of emotions regarding this outcome in the following hours, days, weeks, months since that realization. From disappointment to thinking about how I should have done X, Y, and Z in case I had a change of heart, to be somewhat relieved I didn't have to spend my free time practicing for Worlds, so I could instead continue hammering away at the Tokyo vlog and no-lifing Shadow of the Earth Tree, to ultimately being glad that for once, I could enjoy one of these trips as a proper vacation. No worries looming over me about doing well at Worlds. Which segues into what I actually ended up doing this year instead of competing. So last time, I was half-jokingly complaining about not getting to do all the extra activities they had at Worlds. But now, I had all the time in the world to go and do them. And while they didn't quite go all out like last year, I did find ways to keep myself entertained during these first 2 days of the tournament. The first thing I'd wound up doing was this stamp rally thing. Get all the stamps on your pamphlet, earn a prize. Sure, cool, I'll do that. I see like 3 stamping spots just here in the main hall on the 2nd floor where I'm already standing. Okay, so I may have firmly been in the acceptance stage of grief at this point, but that didn't stop my cynicism from creeping up when I was doing this. Cause I specifically remember having this thought. Man, all my friends are downstairs competing with the best in the world, and here I am with some stupid stamps. And it crept back up again when I went to go claim my prize, which was this. I didn't really know what to expect. I knew it would be something small, maybe like a pin, but sure, I'll take some stickers. Except, it's not even that. I think me, along with any other normal person out there, would think it's a sticker sheet for all these Pokemon, but no, it's just one giant slab of a sticker. What the fuck am I supposed to do with this? At least if there were these small bubbles, I could place them on my Switch or Switch stock like I have with these, but this, I know it's just a silly inconsequential prize, but come on, why didn't you make this a normal sticker sheet?
Oh, this one's really nice. I like this one a lot.
In between me getting all these stamps, I also checked out the other offerings on the 2nd floor. The first being an exhibition with all the semi-finalists for this year's TCG art competition. The eventual winners have since been revealed, but hey, for all you other finalists out there, and even those who didn't make it to the stage, you're all winners in my eyes. You're doing great work out there. I know it's not a great time to be an artist right now, but know your work is appreciated. Not doing a bit here, I genuinely do mean that. I think it was really cool they had all this great artwork on display here. Up next was another exhibition, what they were calling a World's Museum, and this one was a bit less exciting, at least coming from someone who's already quite familiar with the history of all this and has competed before. It's just all the stuff you would get from competing in previous years, like, bruh, they got shit on display here in this fancy case that I just have stuffed in drawers back home. Yeah, this was more for casuals who may not be all too familiar with this. For what it was fine. I just wasn't the target audience here. The final thing I was able to do up here was line up for the autograph gacha they do every year. Roll a 6 on the dice they have, and you can come back on one of the following days to get an autograph from whatever special guest they choose to give you. I think before it's always been Junichi Masuda and Tsunekazu Ishihara, which again were here, but I can't say I particularly care to meet either of them. Who I did care about though were the 2 TCG artists they chose to invite, especially Akira Egawa, whose art I absolutely love. She is legitimately my favorite artist for the Pokemon TCG right now. Shit, I was already a fan of hers before because she puts out some S-tier artwork for Karna, who's one of my favorite Fate characters. I really wanted to meet her and tell her how much I love her work. Too bad that didn't happen. I instead got the other artist, Atsushi Furusawa. I will admit I was not as familiar with him, but he did illustrate this Dragonite card, and I really like this card. And hey, I was just glad to meet any TCG artist. I got this cool poster signed by him, which I plan on framing in my room, even if it got damaged, as I carried it in my backpack all day. While walking around up here, I did see they were advertising these panels for various guests, and one of them was for both of the TCG artists. This could have been my other chance to meet Akira Egawa, but it just happened to be at the same time as a side event I wanted to go and play in. In retrospect, 1, I'm kinda mad I didn't know about this earlier. I'm checking their website now, and this shit was not on here when I was planning my itinerary a couple days before I flew out. If I knew I had this other opportunity, I would have planned with this in mind. And 2, I say all this, but I guess in the moment, I didn't care enough to go and meet this great artist whose work I highly respect, since even after finding out, I went ahead to go play the side event. A choice I regret at least a little bit, but not completely. For the uninformed, regionals, internets, and worlds always have side events that take place in the main tournament hall. Smaller tournaments that give out tickets you can then redeem at a prize wall. It's a great way to kill time if you're spectating or out of the main competition, especially since it's not very hard to essentially profit from them. I played in 4 side events over the span of these first 2 days at Worlds, ultimately spending $30 on entry fees. All the prize tickets I was able to win from them, I then converted into this Lily Nendoroid, which originally retailed for about $40, but now goes for over $100 in the secondary market. What's extra amusing about all this is that a week or so before I flew out, I was just randomly thinking about my figure collection, as I often do, specifically the Pokemon figures I own, thinking it would be nice to get a red figure since he's one of my favorite Pokemon protagonists design-wise. Well, surprise, that ended up materializing quite quickly because I got 2 Nendos at Worlds. Like Lily, he also retailed for about $40, while now going for the same inflated $100+ price tag. I may not have gotten a cool competitor's kit this year, but hey, I will happily take these 2 Nendos to add to my collection, and a cool poster I otherwise wouldn't have been able to get had I been competing. And just like that, 2 days at Worlds had gone by, which meant we had arrived at Championship Sunday. I gotta say, do have some mixed feelings watching the team I would have brought had I competed win Worlds. Even with me fully accepting my circumstances at Worlds this year and enjoying myself in spite of them, thinking about how well I might have done is just not a feeling I can easily shake off. Had I qualified, had those 2 months to further refine my play, with this team I had been playing non-stop, who knows, maybe I would have finally gone that day to finish. Or maybe I would have done terrible. While Worlds may have officially concluded after crowning all this year's champions, and a round of announcements for games I couldn't care less about, there was still one last thing pending. One of the returning activities from last year was the drone show, which I was very happy to see that instead of hosting it for just one night and needed to have won a raffle to attend, they held 3 different showings over the course of the weekend that were open to the public. This was my first time seeing any drone show in person, and it was pretty cool. Not much else I can really say about it besides that. It was mostly all Gen 1 Pokemon, as you would expect. I guess normies don't know what a Tapu Koko is to have thrown that in there. But hey, I appreciate at least my boy Dragonite getting some love. Jokes aside, this really was a nice little bow on top to wrap up this year's Worlds for me. Worlds may be over, but my vacation continued as I would be in Honolulu for another 2.5 days. I knew I had to visit Pearl Harbor at some point while I was here, and today would finally be that day. If you watched both of my previous vlogs, this shouldn't really be a surprise that I enjoy visiting these types of places when I travel. I would have loved to have been able to experience everything here with the Pearl Harbor passport as they call it, but we got there a couple hours after opening, so we really only had time for one thing. We thought the USS Missouri was the most interesting thing for us to go see, and thus we headed on board this decommissioned World War II era ship that now acted as a museum.
What? It's Dynamax Blastoise.
Yeah.
This is our B&B.
Japan? Yeah.
No, I just mean this is or Airbnb.
That'd be a
Yeah.
crazy place to rent out an Airbnb.
Go to the Missouri.
Yeah.
Just fucking have people coming in on you. Just chilling.
Single scoop was $10.
10 cents.
Oh shit. Sorry, nice. The decimal being so far to the left. 10 cents for a large Coke is also gone.
One of the things I found to be interesting when researching Pearl Harbor was how this ship had marked down where a kamikaze plane had previously struck, which we would later see. What I didn't know about was this small exhibit they had about kamikaze pilots. I was not expecting to see my name here being used in this context, nor did I expect some of the other things they had on display here, which, to avoid any drastic tonal shifts in this video, I won't get into, but yeah, there are some heavy stuff here that got some emotion out of me. Another one of the things I found to be interesting about this ship was how it was the location for the formal end of World War II, as it would be on this very spot where Japan surrendered, thus officially ending the war. When I was on board, something I kept thinking about was how neat it would have been if I had been able to visit Hiroshima/Nagasaki last year when I was in Japan. It would have been thanks to Pokemon that I would unknowingly see two sides to the end of World War II. I mean shit, even when I was in London, I almost visited the Churchill War Rooms, so that could have been another perspective. I don't know, man. I just enjoy learning about history. Anyway, visiting the USS Missouri was a very informative experience, and if I do ever get to visit Honolulu again, I do look forward to visiting the rest of Pearl Harbor. Definitely make sure to come by if you ever visit the city, if not for anything else, at least to get yourself one of these bullet-shaped water bottles. How patriotic.
Alright, I'm the cameraman now. Look at him go. What's going on, guys? Drumlord Nation here. Zeke's still driving. Luca's doing something. Yeah. We are in new territory. In like the desert, I guess. The desert? Kind of. The outback. Let's call it the outback. Yeah. Basically the outback. There's no civilization.
Yeah, there's 0 people here.
Yep, 0 people.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Unlike Manoa Falls, my second hike of this trip would not be so close to where we were staying, so I had to get a rental car for the day. About an hour from Waikiki is Kaena Point, which I immediately fell in love with when planning for the trip, thanks to the gorgeous views and the chance of seeing some of the local wildlife like albatrosses and monk seals. Since I had in mind to combine this hike with a visit to the nearby Haleiwa town, this made for the day I was most looking forward to. So today was significantly cloudier than every other day so far. You would think it may ruin some of the scenic views here, but in my opinion, it really didn't. When it comes to the hikes I did, Manoa Falls was pretty good, but I have to give the edge to Kaena Point. One, it's actually an easy hike, besides one small part coming up. Two, there are way less people here, so you can really enjoy the serenity. 3, your shoes will be way less dirty from this hike. And 4, I would say the views here are just as good, if not better.
See, this is where the thing is from.
Huh?
You probably recognize this. No? Damn.
Is that from Sun and Moon?
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't recognize a theme unless it's a battle theme.
Okay. Well, no, they sampled from the Looker theme for the intro for the finals.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
I didn't know Luker had a theme.
It's when you encounter him, yeah. It's Yeah. Don't fall off.
Yeah.
I think it's a terrible idea to go down there.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. You were asking. Wait, how the fuck do we cross?
Wait, what? Oh. Wait. Wait. Do we have to climb that?
You may have started to notice how the day has progressively gone sunnier, which wouldn't have been an issue if we had brought an appropriate amount of water, which we did not. And I'm really mad at myself for this because the entire week leading up to this, I had in mind, okay, I'm gonna make sure we have enough water for this day, get some at the convenience store before we leave if we don't have any spare bottles, just make sure we have enough water. But when the day did come, seeing how cloudy it was compared to every other hot sunny day we had up until this point, me being in somewhat of a rush to go pick up a rental, worried there might be an issue if we didn't arrive on time, that all quite literally clouded my judgment I otherwise would have had on being precautious. It shouldn't be as hot today, we'll be fine. Well, an hour or so into our hike, when the day was again hot and sunny, we all realized we fucked up. We were running low on water, it was hot, the albatrosses and seals I was promised, nowhere to be found. Suddenly this day took a very shitty turn.
Whoa! We got one bird.
Are you recording?
Yeah, I'm recording right now.
Oh, shit.
But I don't know if I got it. I think I did.
Maybe if we're lucky, you'll see a seal on the way back.
That would be a fucking miracle.
Be careful.
Yeah, I know. Ugh.
Why is that? Why? I was gonna take a picture. I'll do it later when the sun's setting.
Yeah, zoom roll.
Yeah. Well, it's the zoom roll, the other zoom roll, and then the wind stop.
A zoom roll, use hydro pump, please.
Yeah, please. Please. Like to. Yeah, you'd rather like to.
Life do, yeah.
Get it?
Nah, I don't. Who knows?
And if that wasn't enough, on the way here, I did not realize the GPS directions the card had given me had me drive to the side of the hike that was not right by Haleiwa town. So I had to spend an extra hour driving there for us to go eat, instead of the 20 or so minutes that it should have been. Up until this point, this trip had gone by without any real issues, but then they all decided to happen one after the other, and on the day I was most looking forward to. Mishaps aside, I would still recommend visiting Kaina Point. These mistakes don't take away from the gorgeous walk that it was, but please make sure to bring plenty of water. More than you think you might need. I still can't believe I let this happen. I was feeling pretty bad about all this, but thank goodness what I had in mind for us in Haleiwa town was at least able to somewhat make up for these turn of events. After some very much needed food, well, we needed some nice dessert to pair with that. Matsumoto's Shave Ice was a name that kept popping up when researching what to do in Haleiwa town, and it absolutely lived up to the hype. If you come here, you'll probably see a long line, but don't worry, they have this down to a science, so the line moves pretty fast. I got a flavor combination of coconut, blue vanilla, and I think peach, that with some ice cream underneath. It was really good. So that's my pick if you're lost on what to order if you do ever find yourself here. Besides eating, I did have more in mind for us to do in Haleiwa town, But the day was quickly coming to an end, and we were all quite tired. I also wanted to film more while I was here, but my camera had run out of battery by this point. Regardless, as I enjoyed my dessert, I didn't worry too much about all that, since I was just happy I had been able to turn the day around after our misery just a couple hours earlier.
It's not happening.
I'm scared for your
Yeah,
lunch.
your thing is gonna implode in the front, and we're gonna have other problems.
It's fine. Go like this.
I guess. What do you do if like you're on the flight and then like you suddenly hear
Before I flew out today, there was one more thing on my mind, and it was to try the famous malasadas from Leonard's Bakery. Alex had actually been to Honolulu before, and he suggested we go. Well, I must say, in the battle of famous dessert places here on Oahu, I'm Team Matsumoto's all the way. The malasadas were pretty good, don't get me wrong, but they slightly messed up our order, and if you're ordering various flavors to be shared between 3 different people, well, it can be kinda hard to tell which flavor is which. Oops. Oh, and finding a place to go sit to eat was kinda awkward. There's a nearby Panda Express you can go sit at, but ooh, only paying customers.
Egg roll. Fucking.
you're welcome. What? I bought the egg roll.
Fuck you, Panda Express. Piece of shit.
With those parting words towards the island's local Asian cuisine, it now sadly meant it was time to also say goodbye to Alex and Luca as I headed to the airport to fly out.
So at this point, it's been like 5 hours since I was supposed to fly out. I still have like 10 more hours to go. And
I really hate the fact that the one thing that has been consistent throughout all 3 of these world's trips was me having some type of awful experience flying back. London, I almost missed my flight due to airport incompetence. Tokyo, I was horribly sick. And now here in Honolulu, I actually did miss my flight. So there's a handful of things I could try and blame this on, but no, this really was just my fault. I've always been good about being at the airport early, but this is the one time I got a little bit too comfortable, cutting it close, and it backfired. Now I had to deal with the fact I'd be stuck at the airport for the rest of the day, waiting for my new flight back the next morning. I swear, there's something about this airport specifically that is cursed to torment me. I left this detail out of my previous blog, but probably the worst part of me flying back home from Tokyo was the stop here in Honolulu, where we had to wait in line in the heat for what must have been an hour to get through security. It was the most miserable leg of that journey back home. And now a year later, I had to deal with this.
Aloha and welcome to Honolulu.
After spending several hours in this one spot where I had made myself quite comfortable, a security guard eventually approached me to escort me to the dedicated waiting area now that the airport had closed for the night. Looking back on all this footage, especially of the morning after, I don't think I've ever had an experience that has felt this purgatorial. It wasn't my first time spending the night at an airport, or even being stuck in an airport all day, but combining the two, it feels weird thinking about all this. Man, the bench I had to try and get some rest on for the night. It was not comfortable. I was in this hunched position making sure nobody could grab my stuff. Yeah, I think if it weren't for this footage and me choosing to make this video, these are all memories I would have buried deep in the crevices of my mind by now.
I love Hawaii because I can hike on Diamond Head. That's cute.
I suppose if nothing else, this did give me ample opportunity this morning to walk around the airport and really get familiar with it. I realized this on my first visit last year, but this is certainly the most visually unique of all the airports I've ever been to. Much like the convention center, the whole open air design definitely stands out. If I didn't have so many bad memories associated with this place, I might even say it's one of my favorite airports I've been to. As much as this sucked, and for as stupid as I was to let this happen, now that this trip will soon come to an end, I will start wrapping up by saying that overall, this still was the most consistently positive experience out of all the world's trips so far. I had a pretty good idea of how this trip would turn out, and it mostly stuck to what I had in mind when planning it. While it still doesn't beat that trip to Japan, this year was still really good, while only having a fraction of mishaps happening. As far as my time at Worlds specifically, while it was nice attending stress-free, now that I have both experienced Worlds as a competitor and spectator, I would still rather come here as a competitor. I just love competing too much, and I know I didn't mind attending as a spectator this year, since coming to Honolulu presents more to do than just being in a convention center for a weekend. If Worlds is ever in another place I would visit, even if there wasn't a Pokemon tournament happening, then yeah, now I know wearing this badge of shame ain't the worst thing in the world. But still, I'd rather show up to compete than the inverse. Seeing how the next two Worlds are going to be in Anaheim and San Francisco, it might be a while until I make another one of these Worlds vlogs. But who knows, I might always change my mind. What I do know, as I finally fly back home, is at least we can all agree that no matter how good the malasadas are, it's not worth missing your flight over them.